Hey guys, doing a video on my total tank maintenance for my SPS dominated tank. You see a couple torches here in the background. This tank is mostly SPS dominated. That's what's on all the rock work. I do have a couple torches in there. I also have a couple Euphyllia and a couple clams and starfish, but the mass majority of what's in there is SPS. So I'm going to go through all the tank maintenance I do for my SPS tank. It is pretty similar to the maintenance video I posted for my LPS tank. However, there are a few extra things I do, and the equipment in this tank compared to my LPS tank is different. In my LPS tank, I was running a canister filter, which is what I prefer to run. In this tank, I switched over to running two hang-on back refugiums, one of which is set up like a canister filter, and the other one is running Chaetomorpha. So I'm going to go through everything that I do to keep this tank up and functioning and clean and healthy and everybody happy. All right, so let's jump into it. My maintenance frequency is weekly, and then monthly, which is actually every 4 weeks. So I end up cleaning 13 times a year, not 12. And then I do every 2 months, which would be every 8 weeks. All right, so let's jump right into the weekly. Things I do on a weekly basis is a 10% water change. I also thoroughly clean the Skimmer Cup. I clean my hang-on back refugium intake pump filter. If you do not have an intake pump filter, this would be a skip for you. And I clean my hang-on back refugium out filter. I toothbrush clean the hang-on back refugium out sections for both of them. I rotate my Chaetomorpha to make sure I get good light on all edges. And I flush the hang-on back refugium that has a Chaetomorpha in it with water, just to make sure that there is no dead spots in there and all the water is flushed out and moved through on a regular basis. All right, so let's jump right into the 10% water change. I do it very simple. I mix water, I put it in a tote with a heater and a power head, and I heat it and cycle it overnight. So if I make water on Friday, I will put it into my tank on Saturday. I don't mix and hold salt water. I only hold fresh RODI water. And this is a 60-gallon tank, but total water volume is 50 gallons once it's displaced by sand and rock, things like that. I measured a total of 50 gallons when I filled the tank to my auto top-off level. So for me, 10% is 5 gallons. Looking at the Skimmer Cup, so I clean this once a week as well. And I clean it to be looking like brand new. You don't want to run dirty equipment. I get my toothbrush out, I get my fragging pick out, and I clean it up. You don't want anything to look old or dirty. If you run dirty equipment, you can expect poor results, as well as you can expect your equipment to wear out prematurely. So cleaning of the hang-on back intake pump filter. If you don't have a pre-filter on your intake pump, this is a skip for you. I do. What I do is I take my filter off, and this is tank water. So only clean your filters in tank water. You don't want to kill anything that's live in them, as well as you don't want to rinse them under water that's going to pollute the filter that you're going to put back in your tank. So only rinse your filters in tank water. So I have some tank water in there, and I'm rinsing the filter, and you can see that water is coming out brown and yucky. All the detritus is coming out of that filter, and I will repeat this multiple times until I get to this point, to where when I can rinse it in the tank water, it comes out clean, or mostly clean. So you can see there, I'm rinsing it and the water is not turning brown anymore. So at this point, I would consider that filter rinsed out, and it will go back onto the intake pump. So you can just kind of see there, the water is still pretty much clean. So then we're also going to clean our hang-on back out filter and chamber. So this is what it looks like. I added that filter to it. It didn't have that, but I didn't like the trickle noise, so I added the filter. So I have to keep that filter clean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my toothbrush. Before I take that filter off, I'm going to clean that out port there, and then right and back I'm going to clean the chamber back in there to make sure I get all the debris to that filter and not to the tank. That way, once I clean the filter, I'm getting all the debris out and not polluting the tank. So I take that filter off. Same thing what I did with the pre-filter. I am going to clean it in tank water, and I'm going to rinse it. You can see the first round it's going to be yucky, and it's going to make the water dirty and brown. And I'm going to keep rinsing multiple times again until I get to this point, just like here, where the tank water after rinsing is still clean, so that filter is nice and rinsed out, and I'm not putting any detritus back into the tank. Once everything's been cleaned, this is what it looks like. So you can see I do not scrape off the coralline algae. I just clean the yuck that grows on the pieces of equipment. So I rotate my Chaetomorph and flush that chamber. So it's a very simple activity. This is a deep hang-on back refugium. If you don't have a deep one, this may not relate to you, but I do have a very deep one. So as you can see, I just moved my light aside and I put my hand in there, and I am rotating that Chaetomorph to get the bottom section, to get some light to all sides of it from the bottom section. And then I'm kind of pushing up and down, you can see it, to get that water flushed out from the bottom to make sure that the big ball of Chaeto in there did not create any dead spots at the bottom of that hang-on back refugium. I want all the water to be cycled through and fresh to keep the tank clean. All right, so jumping into what I do on a monthly basis. Me, monthly is every 4 weeks, as I mentioned earlier. That way I clean 13 times a year, not 12. And so what I do during the monthly is I do everything I do during the weekly, plus I siphon my sand bed. This is going to be very controversial, so I'll talk about that in a moment here. I also turkey baster my rock scape, and I clean the hang-on back refugium that I have set up like a canister filter. So I take that hang-on back refugium apart as if I would my canister filter. I clean all the components and I refresh the media in there on a rotating basis that I will cover as well. So siphoning my sand bed, like I said, this one's going to be very controversial. And here's what I would say. If you regularly do not do this, you haven't done this, and your tank's been set up for any amount of time, don't just jump in and do this. You will cause more issues for your tank than you will solve by doing it. I do this and have done it since the tank's been set up, and I do it on all my reef tanks. 1 month in, I was siphoning my sand bed. How do I do it? I take that siphon, I put it down in the sand, I pull sand up in, I put my finger over the end, let the sand fall back down, and then all the dust that's created, I take my finger off and suck that dust out and get all that extra detritus out. Why do I do it? Without doing it, your sand bed ends up very compacted, very tight. You also get that discoloration, which I do not like. And you get that discoloration between the glass and the sand, which I do not like as well. So I do it, 1, for a visual, and 2, I do it because I want to keep my sand bed from getting compacted. I want my sand bed to be light, fluffy, airy, and powder white. I do not like those hard compacted sand beds that just end up becoming an additional bottom, and it's just a hard, it's no longer sand, it's just a very hard compacted bed. I do not like that, as well as I do not like the look. The benefits are going to be an aerated sand bed that's going to keep all the good products moving through it. It's going to help keep bacteria fresh. It's going to help keep bacteria moving, and it's going to do the purpose of what you want your sand bed for, instead of becoming a compacted bottom. When it's compacted bottom, it loses its ability to do a lot of that stuff. Here's the look I get. a nice white sand bed, no mess between the glass and the sand. It's all powder white, and this is what I prefer. I want a nice powder white sand bed. I don't want my sand bed to be discolored or look yucky. All right, so turkey baster the rock scape. I use turkey baster and I just get all the detritus and yuck out of my rock scape. You can see it there as I'm turkey bastering. It just kind of goes everywhere. I do this and the siphoning of the sand bed the day before I do my water change and before I do the cleaning of my canister filter setup, hang on back refugium. That way, after I do all this, all the filters have had time to clean up the tank. Everything has settled. All this stuff has gone to the filters. The filters have captured it. That way, when I do my cleaning the next day, I am actually getting all this detritus out of the tank and not just blowing it around. If you're just going to blow it around and leave it, you're going to make your issue worse. I actually want to blow it around, capture it with my filters, and then get it out of the tank. So my hang on back refugium that I have set up like a canister filter. I have ceramic media at the bottom, 3 filter pads, and my selection of filter media bags. From the filter pad standpoint, I had 3 pads, a 20 ppi, a 35 ppi, and a 50 ppi. I have ceramic media in there. I have Chemi-Pure Elite, 2 bags of Purigen, a bag of ROWA-Phos, and a bag of carbon. When I set up those filter pads, I put them from the biggest, most coarse, so the 50 ppi, next will be the 35 ppi and the 20 ppi. So I am taking bigger to smaller particles out, and the ceramic media as well is just packed there on the bottom with all the bags right on top. Also, I want to note, if you recall from previous videos, I have a small 240 gallon per hour Corellia power head inside this hang on back refugium, and it keeps good flow through that ceramic media and the media bags. It's not just relying on the flow through the hang on back refugium itself. I have extra power head in there to help facilitate flow through all the media. All right, so let's jump into the filter pads. The filter pads have a 6-month life. That means I change each filter pad 2 months apart. So there's the 3 filter pads, a 50 ppi, 35 ppi, 20 ppi, and they are changed 2 months apart. Please do not change them all at the same time. Filter pads and ceramic media are holding a lot of bioload for your tank. If you change them all at the same time, you are going to pull out a lot of bioload. You could crash your tank. Please don't do that. Make sure you are maintaining the bioload of your tank. So if we're looking at like my changing, month 2, I would change the 50 ppi. Month 4, I would change the 35. Month 6, I would change the 20. And then kind of fast forwarding, month 8, I would change the 50 again. So it went from 2 months to 8 months. Month 10, I would change the 35. It went from month 4 to month 10. So you can see there's been 6 months of life. And month 12, I would change the 20. So it was changed at the 6 month and then again at the 12 months. So you can see how there's a 6-month life, but every 2 months, a single filter is being changed out. That way I keep the filters fresh, I keep them clean, and I do not allow a ton of detritus to build up in those filters and leach back into the aquarium. I am again pulling that stuff out and refreshing on a basis while maintaining bioload. Same thing with my ceramic media. I change half every 3 months, which means it has a 6-month life. So I have all that in there. At 3-month mark, I take all that ceramic media out. I take out half of it, the ones that look the worst, and I put that back in with half fresh new. 3 months later, I take it out. I take out half, the ones that look the worst, and I put that back in with a half fresh new. So every 3 months, I am replacing half of the ceramic media and leaving half in order to help maintain that bioload. Again, we don't want to take it all out at one time and harm our tank. Chemi-Pure Elite, I change this every 3 months, and for the 50 gallons of water, I use the 11.74 ounce container. Purigen, I run two bags of this, and I change it every 2 to 3 months depending on color. You can see here on the left that brown is the old Purigen, and on the right that nice beige is the new Purigen. So as the color darkens, I change it out. Usually it's every 2 to 3 months. Sometimes I can skip a month because the Purigen is not changing color, but if it starts changing color quickly, I change it out sooner. And you can see there's new Purigen on top of old Purigen. ROWA-Phos every 2 to 3 months, depending on the color of the Purigen. If the Purigen gets dark quickly, I change the ROWA-Phos sooner. So if I'm changing my Purigen every 3 months, the ROWA-Phos will go every 3 months. Now, what that means for 3 months is both bags in 3 months. So on the Purigen, if I change a bag at month 1 and month 2, both bags look good, and I change the next bag at month 3, I will change the Purigen and ROWA-Phos both at that month. If I change it month 1 and month 2, the second bag looks bad already, I will go ahead and change the Purigen early at the 1 and 2 month, and then I'll change the ROWA-Phos along with it. Because if the Purigen's getting dirty quick, the ROWA-Phos is having its life used quick as well. Carbon, I change that monthly, and I just use the pelleted one. You can use whichever kind you like. I just use the pelleted one because that's my preference. All right, so let's look at what I do every 2 months or every 8 weeks. I do everything I do on the weekly, everything I do on the monthly, plus I disassemble and clean my power heads. So I clean my power head housing, my power head magnetic pump propeller, and I disassemble and clean my hang-on-back refugium pumps. So I'm cleaning the intake pump guards. I'm cleaning the magnetic propeller as well. All the equipment at this point gets disassembled and cleaned. So the weeklies are the water change and a light cleaning. The monthlies a big cleaning. This is my major cleaning. So disassemble and clean the power heads. I use Corellia power heads. So here they are. Take it apart. You can see how nasty and dirty it is inside. That's going to give me poor flow, poor performance. And of course, if I were to leave it without cleaning it, it's going to lessen the life of the pump. Obviously, with all that yuck in there, less is coming through than what it should. So the flow in the tank is being diminished. This is why I want to make sure I keep it clean on a regular basis. So what I'm going to do to clean it, I'm going to get my tools out. Typically my tools, what I use is a toothbrush and a fragging pick. So I've fully disassembled my power head. I clean up that housing there. That's the front guard housing. And I clean up the back housing. I also clean down in that chamber. That way I get good connectivity with the magnetic propeller. Of course, I've removed the propeller and I clean that as well. So you can see that magnet's been cleaned up. You can see the propeller's been cleaned up, and both the housings have been nice and cleaned up. We'll put it back together and put it back to work. Disassemble and clean the hang-on-back refugium pump. So as you can see here, I took it out of the tank. I'm gonna pop off that front guard. Again, mine has a pre-filter, which is why it looks this way. If yours doesn't, it may just be an end that you spin off to pull your propeller out. So I'm gonna take my propeller out. I'm gonna take my guard off, and I'm gonna get my toothbrush and cleaning pick again, and I'm gonna go to work and get this stuff all nice and cleaned up. You can see the amount of yuck that's on that propeller, and that yuck between the two magnetic fields is going to slow the rotation. And you can also see all the yuck down in there on this pre-filter, and that of course is going to decrease flow, which means I'm not going to get enough flow through my hang-on-back refugium, and it's going to be reduced flow. So let's get it all cleaned up. Again, toothbrush and pick, same tools, and I got in there and cleaned up that guard. I got that nice and cleaned up, got all the yuck out of there, and we're going to clean up all the other pieces as well. So here's the magnetic propeller. You can see that magnet is nice and clean. We cleaned that up, as well as I cleaned down in the chamber on the pump that the magnetic piece goes into to make sure that we have good connectivity there. And I cleaned up, of course, the housing that the propeller goes in. All right, so that's everything I do on the every 2 months, which is every 8 weeks. And this is all the stuff that I do to keep this tank happy, healthy, clean, and well maintained. So hopefully you like this video. I'm hoping you got some tips out of it on how you can keep your tank happy and healthy, all your SPS thriving. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, check out some more of my content, and I'll get more out soon. Thanks, guys.